Hell yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of Roto-Bowler. My co-host, Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Kyle Larson, dominant once again at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Leads 181 of the 267 laps, sweeps both stages, gets to victory lane, gets a second win for Hendrick Motorsports to start out the 2024 season. Third straight win for Chevrolet to start out the year. Tyler Reddick comes in second, sweeps the top two in stages, second place in each of those. Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, and our boy Ty Gibbs, who we talked about quite a bit on last week's episode, rounding out the top five. Noah Gragson coming home sixth after looking very strong in practice and then very slow in qualifying due to a dust storm that came up, and he had to be pretty cautious on his lap. Truex, Hamlin, Logano, Byron rounding out the top 10. 77.8% voted yes in Jeff Gluck's poll that Las Vegas was a good race, and honestly, it's a little bit higher than I thought it would be, because when we see a guy like Larson, especially Larson, go out and just kick the shit out of everybody. Larson was in his own zip code. Reddick was there, but those two were in their own zip codes as far as speed. Typically, we don't see it's a good race. People voting yes that it's a good race. Viewership up. A lot of great news out of Vegas, and we're on to Phoenix. Nick, what'd you think of that race? You were there.
I definitely voted yes. It was an awesome race. I don't know how it came across on TV, obviously, because I was in person, but it was a hell of a good race. I love the fact that if you're faster, you can pass. We saw it, Byron come back through the field. We saw Reddick come back through the field. We saw
Chastain,
Ty Gibbs, Chastain's was more on strategy. He got out front on strategy and kind of fell back, but basically, if you were fast, you could pass, and I loved that. That's what we want. And Reddick caught Larson at the end there. He was fast. He just didn't have enough time to pass him. I think given a longer run, he probably would have. But, it's one of those things. So certainly Larson the best, but Reddick probably was the best at the end. Larson best overall. And who knows what would have happened with William Byron had he not gotten that trash bag beer can deal, right? Because he looked really good. Honestly, pretty big losing week for me on the betting side of things, but I'm really happy with my bets. The only bets I didn't like that I did end up making were my Bowman top 10 and then McDowell. McDowell just kind of, I don't know if he was bad. I know they got on an alt strategy and he just never really recovered. So still on the fence about whether my McDowell bets were bad, but everything else was either snake bit by trash bags or hitting the wall on lap 4, Zane Smith, or just random ass problems. And then the other bet that I had won, and then I bet on Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr. outrights, and both of those were good enough for the prices we got. So it's just one of those things when Kyle Larson goes out and dominates. It makes your 40-1 or 17-1 or 25-1 or whatever it is look worse, even though they actually were good bets, because all it takes is one problem from Larson. Or maybe if he and Reddick battle it out there in the end and make contact, obviously, third place would have been Blaney, but the idea is Truex showed enough speed, Gibbs showed enough speed that I felt pretty good about those. And that's NASCAR betting, right? Like, if you don't hit your outrights, you got to hit all your other bets to kind of make up for it. And all the other bets that I had ended up encountering problems in various ways. Busher, his rim of his wheel tire fell off or whatever, just all sorts of bad luck. So, but I really liked the race. I thought it was awesome. You could definitely pass. And, you mentioned the TV viewership up. I think it's up 9% from last year. I am curious how much of that is the Chase Elliott effect as well, because there was a bit of a Chase Elliott effect last year. I wanted to deny it at first last year, but over the course of the 6 races, we did see a jump back up after Elliott came back. So I do think viewership is up naturally because of how great the start of the season has been. The Netflix stuff for the show, amazing Atlanta finish. But I think there's probably still a little bit of a Chase Elliott bounce there as well compared to last year.
Yeah, I think the reason it's at 9% is because of Chase Elliott, but at the same time, I think Netflix, that's helped a lot. And then, the first 2 races, obviously Daytona, they got off to a bit of a slow start with it being on Monday, but Atlanta, the people that stayed for Daytona and then Atlanta, that was NASCAR couldn't have asked for a better finish at Atlanta to follow Daytona. One more bet I do want to talk about that we talked about on the show last week. Well, actually 2 of them. We bet over 2.5 Fords in the top 10 on this show last week, and that did hit. I actually kind of forgot about that till I logged into my Caesars account, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot that we bet these. 3 Fords ended up in the top 10, including Noah Gragson there in 6th. But one bet I think we both regret making was John Hunter Nemechek over Carson Hocevar. Because Spire Motorsports they have speed. That's all you can say about that entire organization right now is, Corey LaJoie arguably had the best race of his career. And it's going to be fun seeing what those two could do because Hocevar was, he's outperformed shit equipment in Cup Series. So now if he gets a good car underneath him, he overcame, I think, 4 different issues during the race to still finish 15th. So he had a good car. Obviously LaJoie was up there legitimately running top 10 during that race. So, but yeah, Larson going out and dominating, can't say it's overly surprising. As I've talked about many times, with this next gen car, we don't see a lot of changes from race to race. So the best car at Las Vegas last year over the 2 races was Kyle Larson. And once again, it's Kyle Larson again. And like you said, Byron would have been up there. And again, Logano started on pole, led 2 laps, and that was it. Same as last year. He led 9 laps, and that was it. So as far as, one guy that showed more speed than I thought he would, finished 10th in stage 2, Eric Jones. He was a sleeper on these intermediate tracks last year, and I thought Legacy Motor Club was going to be junk after practice and qualifying. He definitely outperformed what I thought he'd be. Ended up with a 14th place finish, like I said, 10th there in stage 2.
So see, that doesn't make me regret the JHN bet then, because he could have been that good as well. It's just Spire's improvement was interesting, but I still think I would, going back on it, looking at it again, I still think I would take JHN over Hocevar if I knew what Eric Jones did in that race. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I get that. I was just so surprised by, like, as soon as practice was over, I'm like, okay, the only way we're winning this bet is if Hocevar
exactly.
Because
but they improved a lot, and I think that says a lot how quickly Legacy improved throughout that race. So I think that was important to note. They don't have that Gibbs alliance, but they do have tier 1 Toyota support. They're just doing all the other stuff on their own. So, Toyota's even said they expect Legacy maybe to struggle a little bit at first, but they expect them, JHN and Eric Jones, to lead laps this year. And contend for the playoffs. Toyota has said we want all 6 of our Gibbs Alliance cars to make the playoffs, and we want Legacy to have those guys lead some laps and contend for the playoffs. So that's kind of Toyota's opinion on it. And I think based off what we saw from Legacy, especially Eric Jones, and even JHN, like, he qualified a lot better than he practiced, and I think they're going to be good. I don't think they'll be, 2311 JGR type good, but I think they'll be potentially better than last year by the time we get towards mid-season and to the second half of the season.
Yeah, and by the time we get to Darlington, could we once again be talking about Eric Jones stealing a win there? That's something I'm definitely thinking of. But it was nice to see the improvement there. Wasn't expecting much out of those two. John Hunter Nemechek finished 22nd, which was better than kind of expected there. Obviously, there was some attrition in this race, but had Chris Buescher having his issue, and then the one guy that whenever I like him, he shits the bed, and whenever I don't like him, he goes out and wins. Christopher Bell. That was one of my favorite bets of the actual race day was Christopher Bell top 10 minus 148. I'm like, this guy's gonna be top 5. Didn't take long, and he was 5 laps down. I would like to pat myself on the back here quick. Before the race started, I tweeted out, I was like, hey, I'm heading into work. Going to try to keep up with the race. Can't wait for lap 4 when all of my fantasy rosters go to shit. Lap 4, Zane Smith issue. My fantasy rosters go to shit. That is the most. I need to stop tweeting shit like that because that's
true. Unreal, dude. That's Jordan Jinx on another level.
It really is. Oh man, and Chastain was a Jordan Jinx last week. He had to go the rear to start the race. He had a speeding penalty during the race. Like I said, he did rebound there to finish top 5. But damn, this hell of a way to start the season, but good racing. I'm happy with where everything was at for me last week at Vegas.
Yeah, same. And I'm ready for
Phoenix.
I was lucky to have those positional over-unders at stations that were a little off market. I hit all three of those, and I bet huge on them. So my betting week was fine, but obviously you couldn't tail me unless you live in Nevada. So I'm not really counting it as a fine week because, if you were tailing my bets, my picks or whatever, you didn't have those results, and that's fine. This is NASCAR. We're going to have upswings and downswings. I started off the year winning the first three races, won the Clash, won both duels, and I technically won the Byron bet for the Daytona 500, even though we had the whole action app tracking snafu thing, because that was our victory lane pick on Running Hot, mine and Stevie's, but then the last two races haven't gone as well, and that's okay. That's how it happens. But, at least last week, on my tracked picks, I basically broke even. So it was just the tracked picks this week. I think we're down around 5 or 6 units. But for me, I made up for it myself with those stations bets. I bet really large on those. I should say really large, but larger than my normal unit size, that's for sure.
Right.
So, it was around, I think there was around winning like over 3 units on each. So that was pretty nice. But
yeah,
it was to win 1K, and my unit size is not the $200 it was last year. It's a little bit bigger this year. So so it wasn't a 5-unit win for me. It was more like a 3-unit win for me.
One thing that you noted that you definitely wanted to talk about on this episode and dealing with Las Vegas, and that's the speed difference between teammates. Particularly Hendrick Motorsports. So Larson went out, dominated this race, best in green flag speed. Byron would have been up there. He was ninth in green flag speed. Technically, Larson was second in green flag speed, but Busher was number 1 because he wrecked out early. So, and he didn't continue any laps after wrecking. So take that out. But, Byron would have been 8th then in green flag speed, despite all of his issues. Bowman sitting there 11th fastest in green flag speed, Chase Elliott 12th fastest. Is it time for those two teams to panic? Because the speed is not there, apparently.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, they both struggled last year after their injuries. Now they're struggling this year so far compared to their teammates Larson and Byron. So it's something we definitely have to be observant of. Larson and Byron were clearly better than Elliott and Bowman this past weekend. And this comes at a track, for example, with Bowman. He's been really good at Las Vegas. He was both of our 36 or 36 because we felt he was kind of a safe option, right? Like, he wasn't going to shit the bed. He, barring obviously normal troubles that happen, but he wouldn't shit the bed from a speed standpoint. And, if Toyota was fast or if Ford was fast, at least he still was on the faster side of the Chevys. But that actually didn't really end up being the case. Like, Kyle Busch was a faster Chevy than him. Ross Chastain was a faster Chevy than him. Daniel Suarez was a faster Chevy than him, I think, in the end. So says a lot that Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, still struggling to match their other two teammates. And, as far as I'm concerned, based off what we saw last year and the first race this year, we got to put them in those positions, right, where they're a tier down from their teammates.
Yeah. You look at green flag speed, Carson Hocevar was right there within a tenth of a mile an hour.
Corey LaJoie.
Yeah.
Corey LaJoie is better than them.
So that's definitely something to look forward or as we continue to go forward. But I'm with you. Like this, I don't think it's close anymore. And coming into the season, I said I think William Byron's the best Hendrick car. Obviously, Larson's in that discussion, but there is quite a gap now between those. I feel like with this next gen car, Larson and Byron have either figured it out more or they have progressed more skill wise. And Elliott and Bowman, I think Bowman's more due to his injury. I don't know if Chase Elliott is just. I feel like when he went on his championship run and every that whole year, those couple years, it was really anchored by his advantage on the road courses, and he doesn't have that anymore.
Right.
So I could see Chase Elliott going winless this year. It would not surprise me one bit.
I could see him going winless. I also still think his over 1.5 wins on the year was value. I think if we replay the year many times, I still think the over is going to be value. He still can win these road courses. He still can win these super speedways. Things can happen at these other tracks, the Phoenix or Las Vegas, where he could still win. So I still think the over 1.5 preseason was value. But certainly he is a step down, and Alex Bowman is a step down from Larson and Byron at this stage.
I can't remember the last time, outside of a road course or super speedway, that I thought Chase Elliott is one of the contenders to win. Like legitimate, could dominate this race, could definitely win. I can't remember the last time I thought that. And that's very telling, I think, of where that team is. Bowman, you don't really expect him to be a contender.
No.
But Chase Elliott, you definitely do.
Yeah.
Looking at going back to last season, like you said, after his injury, so he had a top 5 at the second Daytona race. He had a top 5 at Indy Road Course. You have to go all the way back to Nashville in June before you find Chase Elliott's last top 5 not on a road course or super speedway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And obviously
exactly.
he has 0 this year, 0 top 10s as well.
Yeah. So it's interesting. 0 top 10s, but 7th in the points, because top 10s have been hard to come by for everybody. Nobody has 3 top 10s. The only people with 2 top 10s are Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, and Bubba Wallace. Those are the only ones with 2 top 10s. And Noah
2
Gragson.
people with 2 top
Noah
5s.
Gragson, I forgot.
Noah
Gragson, but he had that points penalty, so he was like off my list.
2 people with 2 top 5s.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Blaney,
Bubba and Blaney.
Bubba Wallace.
Yeah.
There is one person with 3 top 10s this year.
Is there?
Yeah.
Who?
You.
Oh.
Picks to win. You have yet to pick anyone outside of the top 10.
I like it. I already forgot who I picked this past week.
Last week you picked Hamlin, who finished 8th.
Picked Hamlin for Vegas. Okay, yeah, he finished 8th.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna wait till later to throw that, but that was too much of a perfect time.
Yeah, that is. And then because I won with Byron in Daytona, and then I took Ross in week 2 at Atlanta. He finished 7th.
Yep. So 3 straight top 8 finishes for Rotodoc there.
Nice. I'm leading the points, I think.
Yeah, this is our own version of random fantasy racing. Just more educated than random.
Exactly. Yeah.
One last thing before we move on from Vegas. Stewart-Haas, Gragson specifically, he's super fast in that opening practice session. Like I said, he had that bad qualifying draw. I think he would have qualified really well if he didn't. Briscoe came out, qualified 6th. I don't remember what happened to him to finish 21st. You surprised by Stewart-Haas's speed a little bit more than, did they have a little bit more than you thought they did? Obviously Gragson did. Gragson I love Gragson in DFS, but I did not really think that he could run potentially top 5, and he could have.
Yeah, definitely surprised by some of the speed Stewart-Haas showed. Briscoe had really good short run speed, really good fire off speed. He did not have a good long run car. That was kind of the issue with him. And then Gragson, he looked fantastic, like really damn good. And that's in that 10 car, which Eric Almirola drove. And Almirola wasn't really a world beater at the 1.5 miles, So I thought that was super interesting because we talk about the 4 car, Rodney Childers. We expect Josh Berry to be great at these short flat tracks. We of course have Phoenix this weekend. But that's also where the 10 car would shine, is these short flat tracks, partly because of the driver, right? Eric Almirola, that's a great track type for him in general. But I wasn't expecting Gragson to run top 10 in speed, and he ran top 10 in speed. And I think if you track position adjusted, it's even better. I haven't run my flags yet. I was going to today, and then I got distracted by college basketball because I have to do my college basketball show tomorrow for Action Network. So I got distracted by that, but I'll run flags tomorrow after I do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Noah Gragson ends up inside the top 10 in track position adjusted speed. He was 10th in green flag speed, but like you said, he had to come through the field. He wasn't really up front all day. So he had to deal with dirty air and making passes, that kind of stuff, which will all slow you down. So to see him 10th in green flag speed, that's really damn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, coming into Phoenix, Stewart-Haas is definitely someone to keep an eye on because we're so used to them being shit boxes. But all of a sudden, Chase Briscoe has 3 top 10s in the 4 Phoenix races with this next-gen car. We don't know what to expect really with Josh Berry in this 4 car, but we know Harvick was fucking great at Phoenix.
Yeah.
Gregson, same exactly like you just said. And then who else? Who's the one I'm forgetting? Gregson.
Priest.
Yeah. Fuck Priest. but
Priest is good at Martinsville. We'll give him that.
Priest in the 2 races here at Phoenix last year finished 12th and 14th. So that's pretty solid considering, so Stewart-Haas definitely, I have yet to see top 10 lines drop anywhere. Surprisingly, typically 365 or Caesars hasn't by now. They only have top 5s. I'm excited to see what Stewart-Haas's top 10 odds look like whenever those come out. But that's all that I really have for Las Vegas. Do you have anything else?
No.
Any surprises of guys that were slower than you thought they'd be?
Yeah, well, so here's one thing, and this is another reason I love flags, is because Michael McDowell was 36th in green flag speed. But remember, my flags also adjust for strategy. He had that no tire stop, or he didn't take tires, he just stayed out and just fell straight to the back on that stint to close out. I think it was stage 1, a really early strategy play there, just dropped back. And similar happened with Daniel Suarez, right? So Suarez doesn't look as good on speed. He's sitting there 26 on the speed chart, but he and McDowell had that no tire stop deal. So that's why I love using flags better than green flag speed, because mine is lap by lap, and it's adjusted for your tire strategy so that it's comparing fair strategy to fair strategy, things like that. And then it's weighing by the car count on those strategies. So those laps for McDowell and Suarez are going to be super de-weighted in a flag style analysis. So if you're looking and saying, well, Daniel Suarez was 26 in green flag speed. No, he wasn't. He was better than that. He was a top 20 car, somewhere probably in the teens, I would guess, overall. Maybe the back half of the teens, I would think, overall. And similar for Corey LaJoie, right? He's 18th in green flag speed, but he had that problem right at the end. So he had a lap there, where it was really slow. That might even be factored in because of it came out like the caution lap or whatever. And then he had, he was just slow after that from the damage from his crash. So Corey LaJoie also, if we look at healthy car speed, he probably was borderline top 10, I would say. He was hanging out inside the top 5 for a lot of that race, top 7. Yeah. So I think Corey LaJoie, Daniel Suarez, and Michael McDowell will be 3 guys that really jump up when I run my flags metrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Corey LaJoie had an average running position of 13.03. It's his best average running position ever in any NASCAR Cup Series race. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's amazing.
And I mean, for anybody that likes underdogs, that whole Spire team,
Look, man, it makes me so mad because looking how well Corey LaJoie and Carson Hocevar did, and Zane was the best of the 3 in practice.
I know.
Oh, man.
I know. Nick, man, I know. Man. God. It's one of those weeks. It'll come back. Like that's how this NASCAR thing works. It all comes back around. But that's just frustrating.
Zane may legitimately have been a top 10 car if he doesn't have his problem there. Frustrating. So it is what it is. That's how it goes. And if you're all are watching on YouTube, you can see that I have my Zane Smith shirt. I bought it at the track. He was actually in the Trackhouse hauler, which I thought was cool. So it was the Daniel Suarez and Zane Smith merch was on that one. And then Ross had his own hauler right next to the Daniel Suarez Trackhouse one. So that's pretty neat that even though he's Spire, right, like he's already getting the Trackhouse merch, which I think is really cool.
Which, by the way, Trackhouse has the best merch in NASCAR, and it's not even close. They
got Daniel Suarez hoodie. Like their stuff is really cool.
Mm-hmm. I hated Ross Chastain for however many years, and I think I have 2 or 3 Ross Chastain shirts or Trackhouse shirts. Like, and obviously I hate Daniel Suarez. So,
I'm not as much of a Daniel Suarez fan. I hate him less than you. but I'm not as much of a Daniel Suarez fan as my girlfriend is. And so she really likes him. Like her top three are the 2311 boys, and I think Suarez is right up there with them. So those are the three she roots for. So got a Daniel Suarez hoodie because of that. And plus it was weird. Like I was at the race, of course, and it was warm, but it was so windy that you felt a little cold. So I was like, yeah, I'll get a hoodie just in case. I didn't end up wearing it at all. I just stayed in my t-shirt, but just in case I ended up feeling too cold, but it warmed up enough that I didn't really end up needing to wear it.
Yeah. Were you surprised? Obviously they had those wind gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour. Were you surprised that didn't play more of a factor into the race?
No. These drivers are top notch. you know, they've raced in wind before. But I wasn't surprised, especially, we saw the Xfinity race the day before and wind was even heavier then and didn't really cause any problems in the Xfinity race. So didn't think the Cup guys would be affected by it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to do it, I think, for Vegas. Unless you got anything else.
Nothing else. I don't know if we want to already start talking point standings because they're pretty interesting.
We can do that.
Kyle Larson leading the points. No surprise there with a dominant win at Vegas. Ryan Blaney is second with his two top three finishes, plus a stage win at Daytona, where he finished 30th. And then you mentioned Bubba Wallace has two top fives, but he's sitting there 14th in points. He only has 10 stage points, whereas, Ryan Blaney, the other guy with two top fives, has 34 stage points. So if Bubba had 24 more stage points like Blaney did, Bubba would be sitting right behind Ross Chastain at 6th in the point standing. So those stage points are already looking pretty important. And then 15th and 16th in the points, the Legacy Motor Club guys, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek.
Nice. One guy, by the way, shout out NASCAR.com for splitting out total points and stage points. I like this. I like this new layout they have here. One thing noteworthy with stage points, Ty Gibbs sitting in 9th despite only having 5 stage points. That is solid for him.
Yeah.
But overall, maybe I was going to say Cindric surprises me, but at the same time, he's so good on super speedways. It's not surprising to me that he's in 11th. He's just going to continue to drop as the weeks go on. Anybody further back? Christopher Bell currently 21st in points with 52 points through 3 races. And Joey Logano with 48.
Yep. And Keselowski sitting there 28th in points.
Yep.
And Kes didn't look that fast.
He did not.
He didn't look that great at Vegas. He was 16th in green flag speed. It may adjust a little higher just because his track position wasn't great. But then again, I think some of those other guys will also adjust higher. Like Corey LaJoie will almost surely leapfrog him. Daniel Suarez might when I run flags. So, Keselowski just had a mid-pack car at best. Finished 13th, but had a mid-pack car. Got a little lucky by other drivers having some issues. And so not the best showing at Vegas for Kez. And 2 DNFs in the 2 pack races at Daytona and Atlanta has left him with just 40 points on the season. If Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson did not have their 35-point penalties each, Keselowski would be sitting 30th in the point standings instead of 28th.
1 point ahead of Justin Haley, 3 points ahead of Josh Berry, 8 points ahead of Zane Smith and Todd Gilliland. Just to put it in perspective of where.
And only 10 points ahead of Kaz Grala.
Yeah.
Kaz Grala has been in 2 different cars so far this year. I believe he was for Daytona. He was in the front row 36, and then he was in the Rick Ware car for 2 races.
Yep.
So 30th, not good.
No. All right. We'll go on now to Wine About It. I don't know if you have one set. We didn't really talk about it before we started recording, if you have one.
I don't. I have nothing to whine about. I had a great weekend at Vegas. The race was awesome. The only thing I could whine about is my seats. And it's not because I had bad seats. I shouldn't say I got put. The tickets I bought for the grandstands ended up being next to the worst possible people I could imagine being next to in a race. So we ditched our seats and hung out at the bar. Fortunately, there's like an outside part of the bar, so we just sat and watched the whole race from the bar area up in the club level or whatever, and it's free there. So, if you go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway and you think your seats are too low, go up to the bar and hang out at the bar, watch the race from outside the bar, and you get a better view. You can see the whole damn track. You just have to be close to the railing, but you can see the whole track from there. But yeah, I was not next to good people for the seats I purchased, and that's unfortunately just par for the course. Not par for the course. It's the first time it's ever happened to me, but it is something that definitely can happen in a NASCAR environment, and unfortunately just got the raw end of the deal with the seats I happened to purchase. So
were they rude?
That's
or
the only real thing I can whine about, because everything else was such a positive experience. And then I didn't, find anything to whine about from the betting or DFS side of things, because I was so focused on actually being at the race.
So what was up with these people?
Oh, I would guess based off the missing teeth, they probably did a certain kind of drug and were smoking out of that pipe in the stands and just nonstop screaming, hacking up lungs, all sorts of just nastiness. I didn't want to be around those people.
Yeah, just things you don't want to be like. You're just trying to,
just trying to enjoy the race, have some fun, and not put up with
stupid shit.
Yeah, stupid shit and terrible people.
How was the crowd? Like, was it? I didn't look at the crowd on TV. Was it a decently?
It's interesting. They said it was. I mean, I shouldn't say they said. When I looked at the map, it was pretty close to not a sellout, but there weren't a ton of seats. But then I went to at the race, and I think it was still maybe a little more empty than I expected. But of course, a lot of those people like me vacated their seats and hung out at the bar, for example. So it's tough to say. But I thought it was a great crowd, and since I didn't have too much to whine about, let me at least pour some wine. So. Yeah. Thanks to Luvabella Wineries. Of course, we got our shipments of wine and beer. I will taste the beer as well, but I have yet to try this Luvabella wine. So this is a new one for me. It is a red blend of Grenache, Syrah, and I don't know how to say this other one, Mourvèdre. So I will try it out. It's 15.5%. I do know I tend to like Grenache and Syrahs. I don't know about the third one, but so there's the ASMR pour. You can hear it, a nice little glass clink, and I will give it a sip. Oh yeah, I love that. Luvabella does it again with another stellar wine. Highly recommended. This is not as acidic as I expected it. It's certainly on the smoother side, but it's got nice flavor. So some reds can be some lighter reds, for example, can be maybe a little more berry flavored, a little lighter flavored, but this doesn't taste lighter flavor. This still has like a stronger flavor to me, which I like. That's the type of red I like. Not as acidic as I expected, but that's totally good. Especially for me who deals with a lot of acid reflux and stuff like that as well. I love my acid, and unfortunately that causes me to have stomach problems as well. But so I really like it. And then you tried this beer last week, Jordan, the Monocle Chocolate Peanut Butter Stout. So I need to try it. And I'm telling you right now, going in with low expectations, because I don't like peanut butter flavor. It doesn't mean I love peanut butter. I like Reese's Cups, for example. There's something about like the way peanut butter flavor is added to things, though, that gets me sometimes.
I think you're going to be surprised.
Yeah, so I'm going in with low expectations, but that is nothing, of course, against the beer here from Brew Kettle. It's just my personal flavor profile taste that I don't like, but we'll see. That is really good. That is really good. Okay, all right. And like you said, if that was nitro, oh my God. But no, I really like this. This is pleasantly surprising. I went in with very low expectations. There's peanut butter stouts that I just can't drink. Not because I think they taste bad. I just know I can't have more than a few sips of it before I really don't want it anymore. And so there's no point in me getting a whole can or bottle or pint or whatever of it. But this one I can definitely finish it. I wouldn't have more than one because I tend not to want more than one of these anyways. But I can definitely finish this whole thing. That's very good. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I when you were talking about the taste, that was my main thing that I picked up on last week. It was there's usually so much peanut butter flavor because they're trying to like overcompensate and kind of cover the beer taste, whereas this it's very, very subtle, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah,
but
no, that's really good.
Glad you like it.
That's really good. Yeah, I'm glad I like it too because I was like, man, I have 3 of these, and we'll have to see. I'll have to get through them at some point, or maybe schlep them off to people. But nope, they're mine now.
I'm going with the IPA. That's what I'm with you. I'm just like you. Low expectations here because I do not like IPAs. These are not my favorite beer at all.
Sure.
But I'm going to try it. I'm going to give my honest review. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'll let you know.
You heard what I said last week. It wasn't overly hoppy and didn't hit all the wrong notes of IPA-ness.
Again, shout out to the Brew Kettle. Make sure you check them out along with Luvabella Winery. It smells like an IPA. Like these things smell like Windex to me. Like I shouldn't have smelled it. This is gonna. All right. I get what you're saying. Where it's not overly. That's still an IPA though. That's definitely still an IPA. Okay, I'd give it. Again, I don't like IPAs. 4.7 out of 10. That's my rating, but that's coming from someone that if there's literally anything else on the drink menu, I'm getting anything else than an IPA. So I know you said, you like IPAs. You said this was good. I take your word for it. I'm just not a big fan.
I think it's a great IPA. And if you don't like IPAs, this is maybe one of the most tolerable ones. I used to be a huge IPA guy. I'm not really these days, but I would go for like the full on hoppy, hit you hard, really strong, like the Sierra Nevada Torpedo, not just the regular Sierra Nevada, but the Torpedo.
Oh God.
Like, so it was, I would just go like full IPA, but that's why to me, like that one's very tame to me. But I love it. I think that one's so good. I can't wait to have another one, but I think I'm going to always save them for this show. So I just want to do one a week and have them when we're doing Stacking Dennys.
Yeah, I get what you mean by that. Like this isn't overly too much. Like other IPAs that I've had is it's just too much. But it's tolerable. I'll say that it's tolerable. But getting on to my wine about it, because I actually have one. And that is, there was obviously the change this week. One of the changes this last week at Las Vegas was the introduction of the new qualifying things with groups, where Group A set the inside line, Group B set the outside line. And your one of your favorite follows on Twitter, Dr. Deandra, basically she did a whole thing where analyzed how it's unfair for as far as these groups go and different track conditions. So we never really got a reason why NASCAR decided to go to these groups. And then Bob Pockrass, future Hall of Famer Bob Pockrass, tweeted out.
I even forgot I mentioned that. Mention that. I met Bob. We'll have to go back to Vegas after one about it.
Yeah. So future Hall of Famer Bob Pockrass tweeted, the theory for groups for Cup practice is it allows more driver TV interviews since only half the field is practicing at one time. And so then they split them in groups for single car 2 to try to keep it fair. That's their fucking reason for this group bullshit. That is their reason. Because I thought they had a legitimate reason. A somehow doing it. No, this is just to potentially get more interviews, which they do like 2 interviews a fucking practice. And that's why they split it up. This is insane to me. I could not believe it when he said this. This is wild. Just put everybody out there on the fucking track. Like, That's your reason. You don't want to improve the actual race broadcast, but you're sitting here doing shit trying to improve the fucking practice broadcast. What is this decision? Put their feet to the fire for the race to make a better race product on TV instead of completely changing practice and qualifying to try to make the practice broadcast better. This is absolutely pure NASCAR bullshit and insane. I have no words for that. I could not believe it. I thought
because I knew you were going to do this, and I'm the opposite. I think the group thing is the best thing ever because it's better for us as bettors if we're smart.
Agree.
We can outsmart the books. We can outsmart the books. Plus, if you have all 30 whatever cars on track at the same time, then it gets to where you can't even tell if the practice times are good because they could encounter dirty air or another slow car. Mm-hmm. Having 16 or 18, a lot more space on the track to get a true representation of what your speed is. I love having two groups practice, even if they're different, they have different speeds and whatever, because we can adjust for that, knowing that the track conditions have changed. I love it. I think it's so much better for betting that give me this group stuff. I love it. It's much better for betting.
I'm with you for betting and for smart people that are able to actually analyze it. We saw it just this last weekend when Ryan Preece went out and wrecked his car in first practice. You had to adjust those practice speeds of everybody else in that group because it was in the middle of everyone's 5-lap run. Mm-hmm. But the fact that what I'm pissed about is that this is the reason that it was done. They didn't have an actual reason to do this shit. It was just to potentially make a TV broadcast better. Which I know I'm probably going to get shit for because people are going to be like, you always bitch about the TV broadcast. I know, but this is just, this is such a fundamental change. And to do it for that is just bananas to me. But yes, I am with you on it needing, or it being good for us. I agree with that 1,000%.
You know what's interesting? IndyCar is trying out something similar to NASCAR now. So IndyCar used to just have practice and, everybody on the track for however long the practice session is. But IndyCar, I think, is trying something now where they're having an all cars session for, I don't remember the amount of time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, where all the cars take the track. Then they do the groups 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So it's group one, group two, group one, group two. So you get the best of both worlds. You get all of them on the track and you get a group thing. So I'm curious how that'll work out. I don't know if it's starting this weekend with St. Pete or if it's for the thermal exhibition race and then a few other races. But I think it's interesting that IndyCar is going a little bit towards the NASCAR route with the group practice thing as well. So very curious how that'll work out.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting to note. One, when are Indy odds going to drop so I can bet Kyle Kirkwood this week? Because I keep checking and nothing's out there.
Yeah, usually I remember last year they were very often Wednesday evening at Caesars, afternoon or evening at Caesars, or occasionally Thursdays as like NFL rolled around and stuff. But hopefully with it being the first race of the year, we get something sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just surprised nothing was up yet. But that also brings into so this upcoming practice at Phoenix this weekend on Friday. They're doing practice on Friday, qualifying on Saturday. This practice session, this is the first race with the new short track package, and they're going to do that as well. They're going to do Group 1, or Group A, Group B, Group A, Group B. It's going to be an extended practice session. So just something to note there. But before we moved on and fully talk about Phoenix, you met Bob Pockrass, and I need to know what this guy's like in real life, because when I saw him at Martinsville and at Bristol last year, I was too starstruck to approach him, so I did not. Plus, he was busy. But what you need to tell me this whole experience.
Yeah, so wanted to get there. So we left at 8 to get to the track before 9 because there was a tweet up at 9 o'clock that Jeff Gluck and Bob Pockrass were hosting. So make it over to the tweet up area just before 9, and people are already there, already talking to Bob and Jeff. Didn't I didn't end up getting to talk to Jeff Gluck. I wanted to, but everybody else was talking to him, and I didn't want to keep waiting around because there were other sites to see and things to do. But Bob, I was able to kind of, for some reason, Bob was talking to a smaller group of people, and Jeff seemed to have more people around him. And I was like, that's perfect for me because I love Bob, like future NASCAR Hall of Famer Bob Pockrass. So just kind of snuck into the side of that group there that was talking to him, and Bob was great. He very personally, like, even with a group of people, he would look around and try to address everyone. So just the nicest dude. Definitely a little dry, his Bob Pockrass humor, right? So I told him, about what I do, like with the Action Network and stuff, and I told him I bet on Zane Smith to have a top 10 finish. And he goes, "Oh, are you paying for the Uber ride home or something like that?" Like just some funny jokes. But he liked my Case Kane shirt, and just super super chill, cool, nice guy. So yeah, I only good things to say about him. Very, a little awkward, as we all expect from Bob. Right. And not that I'm
just kind of tell.
Not that I'm the most smooth person in the world. I'm definitely awkward when I meet new people or whatever as well. So but no, I'm not the most outgoing on the internet or doing podcasts and stuff like that. I can be, but when I meet new people or like celebrities, I try not to like bother them. But the fact that it was a tweet up where like we're expecting people to come say hi to us, a little better of a situation. And then lo and behold, who shows up to the tweet up? Chase Briscoe. Really? He was their special tweet up guest that I didn't even know was going to be there. So they didn't tell anybody. And so Chase Briscoe shows up, says hi to the fans, talks a little bit. And so I got to take a picture with him. I didn't have any stuff for him to sign other than I was holding a Starbucks cup. And I'm like, it fits perfectly, right? Because Casey Kane, he's from like the Seattle, Washington area, and that's the home of Starbucks. And I was wearing my Casey Kane shirt. I had my Starbucks cup. Chase Briscoe loved my Casey Kane shirt. He voluntarily commented on that to me. So shout outs to Kelsey for getting me that Casey Kane shirt for Christmas because everybody loved it. Like I got so many compliments on that shirt. But Chase Briscoe complimented the shirt. He was like, "No, I've never signed a Starbucks cup. I'd be happy to." Like he loved it. And then he liked my tweets and stuff when I tweeted about it. Chase Briscoe did. So he thought that was pretty funny. He thought it was cool. And then, Kelsey took a picture with him. So now Kelsey's like, yeah, he's on my list of drivers that are awesome. So super, super nice guy, Chase Briscoe as well. And dude, I met a future NASCAR Hall of Famer. I'm so excited about it.
That's awesome. When you said you met Bob, I'm like, I'm so jealous. I am so jealous. Oh.
Told him about how we sponsored Stephen Malazzi's truck. So he thought that was cool.
Nice. Gosh. Yeah, next race I go to, I'm definitely gonna have to stop and say hi to Bob.
100%.
But that's gonna get us to Phoenix, the Shriners Children's 500 this weekend. Last time we were here, we crowned a champion, Ryan Blaney, finishing second to Ross Chastain. For the first time, a champion did not win the race. And we're back once again at Phoenix, a little bit later than normal, but still early on in the season. Like I said, we have a new package to deal with. We also have something that I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because Phoenix, there is a group of drivers that are very good at Phoenix. They're always very good at Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is no longer racing. And I want to know how you think this affects. Do you think, obviously everybody just moves up in the rankings. Like Kevin Harvick was one of the best at Phoenix. And now but I don't know how to word this question correctly, but I guess how do we kind of adjust for Kevin Harvick retiring and no longer racing at Phoenix when he was so good? Like 20 straight top 10s is just ridiculous. Is there any way that we can adjust for that this weekend where, these drivers that might have been fringe top 10s would have been top 10 drivers if Harvick wasn't there, I guess is the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah.
And now
absolutely. Now you build a model, and that's, or your algorithm, for example. You have your algorithm, I have my model. Those things should capture that, right? All that win probability, all that top 10 probability that Kevin Harvick used to have, that gets sucked out and put into his replacement, Josh Berry, which is certainly going to be lower. and that elevates everybody else's to some degree. So, that's why I model all of these races, model every finishing position or every position, 1 through 36 or 37 or 40, depending on, the number of cars in the race. And, so yeah, you need a model for that, and that'll help you find each car's win probability, top 10 probability, things like that. So it just comes down to the distributions, right? Every driver has their distribution, and once you pull Kevin Harvick's distribution out and replace it with Josh Berry's distribution, then the number of times Josh Berry gets pulled ahead of these other guys is much lower than the times Kevin Harvick got pulled ahead of those guys in the distributions. So just kind of how it works out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it certainly does change the dynamic. That said, Josh Berry is pretty good at these shorter, flatter tracks. We all know that. I mean, he's been great at Martinsville. He's been, had some strong finishes in Richmond's, Phoenix's, New Hampshire's, etc. In the Xfinity Series for sure. And even had a good finish in the Cup Series at Phoenix, I believe it was. And a really good finish at Richmond. That was mostly strategy. A strategy call there where he got his second place finish, but he had a 10th at Phoenix as well in the Chase Elliott car last year. So certainly a solid track for him. He's definitely not a Kevin Harvick.
Right. And that is definitely one, talked about it earlier, how Josh Berry's going to do. Childers obviously had something figured out at Phoenix, but does Josh Berry, is he able to replicate Kevin Harvick's racing at Phoenix? Is Childers going to struggle to get him a setup that he likes compared to what Kevin Harvick liked here? So definitely a lot to keep an eye on there. But yeah,
this is an interesting one. I'm going to pick your brain on this because this is an interesting one to me. Both Eric Almirola, like I said, and Kevin Harvick have left, and they're replaced by Josh Berry and Noah Gragson. Josh Berry and Noah Gragson were teammates at Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. There is a head-to-head matchup out there at a couple books between those two. What would you set the head-to-head between the two be? Without looking at what the line currently is, what would you set the head-to-head be between them?
Can I look up how they did in Xfinity quick?
You can. But that's what I was trying to say without looking it up. What is your perception?
Oh, I thought you meant without looking up the line.
Just
I thought
gut
you meant without
feel.
looking up the line.
No, you can
okay.
gut feel first and then do it after looking up.
I'm not gonna look it up. Yeah, I misinterpreted that question entirely. My bad.
Oh, you're good.
I'd probably set it. Shit. I'd probably set it Barry 105, Gragson 150, or no, Barry 150. Yeah, Barry 105, Gragson even or something like that.
So you'd have Barry favored over Gragson.
Barry favored, yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, I looked at
Slightly.
Xfinity data, and Gragson beat Barry all three races in
Did he?
performance.
Damn it.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, well, I don't know. But then you give Barry the Rodney Childers bump, but Eric Almirola and that crew there, they did just fine at these shorter, flatter tracks. Eric Almirola certainly wasn't the driver Kevin Harvick was. So I don't know. I think it's a toss up between the two. I may even lean slightly towards Noah Gragson here.
I was gonna say minus 110 on both sides and just call it a day.
I think that's a fair line, but I think FanDuel has Gragson minus 102 and Barry minus 120 something. And so
I'd probably bet Gragson there.
If I can get Gragson at plus money, even, I think I might bet Gragson. I just need to shop around and figure out what's out there, because I don't have it all up in front of me right now. But yeah, and especially after what Gragson did this past weekend at Vegas. I know it's totally different, but he was the one who looked really good at Vegas. He's the one who has had a full-time season in the next gen, or half a full-time season. I guess Barry kind of did too in that regards, a little bit with the substituting. But at worst, it's break even between the two in the next gen. Well, and Gregson's actually even raced some other races in 2022 as well in the next gen. So just one of those things where I'm not really sure Josh Berry should be favored here. I think Noah Gragson could potentially be favored in that head-to-head matchup between the two.
Yeah, I don't think either of them should be favored by to me, it's a toss-up. I don't think either of them should be favored, but I'm also not running to bet, Gregson or the underdog.
Yeah, I'm not running to bet it, but if I see it at a plus number, I think I'd probably end up taking Gregson. So yeah, it's minus 102, minus 126 at FanDuel, which is already a whole lot of juice already in there. But I think Superbook has a matchup as well. I'm trying to pull it up on my phone here. Let me see what Superbook has this as, because I believe that's where I initially saw it.
So they both ran in this Phoenix race last spring. Barry qualified 17th, finished 10th. He was not a 10th place car. He benefited from that late caution. He was also in Chase Elliott's number 9 car. And then Gregson ran the 42 for Legacy, qualified 32nd, finished 29th. So you had one guy that outperformed and one guy that probably underperformed.
Yeah, and, the teams as well.
Yeah, exactly.
They were certainly not indicative. Yeah, I don't know where the other Gregson Berry matchup was, but I remember seeing it somewhere else. I'll have to try to find it because I remember being like, wow, that's an interesting one. And I'm pretty sure Gregson was even money. And then I saw it again at FanDuel, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's at DraftKings. Minus 105 Gregson, minus 125 Josh Berry. Wonder if Bet365 has a matchup between them. Race matchup. No, I don't see it at Bet365. I thought there was one that may have had him at even money, but I happen to see that now, so never mind.
Just pulling up the apps real quick, see if I see anything. Yeah, that's a good question. And it's always fun because it also delves into, we deal a lot of this kind of not hypothetical, but how do you really want to approach this when it comes to DFS and betting as well? Because a lot of these guys do not have any history. And we see it with, what's probably going to happen in DFS this week is Noah Gregson's going to get a bump in ownership because of his Las Vegas performance when he really probably doesn't. There's no need for that. Right. Zane Smith is probably going to be lower owned this week because of his performance at Las Vegas this week. But when you barely have any data on these guys, there's not a lot you can do. Like, you really have, those are the ones you really have to fucking research and try to make a decent guess. Or an educated guess at what they're going to do, because you got nothing to work on there.
No, exactly. And you know who else did well here last year? While we're talking about these guys, Carson Hocevar in the championship race finished 19th.
Yep.
So not too bad, especially in that legacy car where Noah Gragson finished, like you said, way down there in the first Phoenix race. So, I feel like Hocevar may have run even better than that. I don't exactly remember. I'll try to pull up what his green flag speed was from that race, but Hocevar had a decently strong showing at Phoenix last year, so just something to keep in mind.
Which is, I like Hocevar, man. I think he's a really good fucking driver. Like, he's talented as hell.
Him. I can't stand him, but I think he's a great driver. Yeah,
as a driver, I like him, but to me, he's a Ross Chastain type of annoyance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I sort by green flag speed and then sort by race, that'll get me to Hocevar was 20th in green flag speed last year in the championship race. Which,
considering where that car was last year, is a pretty good race, especially being the last race for not front row, but
Legacy with Chevy.
Yeah, Legacy with Chevy. That's a very good race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of, I said Kevin Harvick has always been good here, 20 straight top 10s. There's quite a few other guys that have a similar, kind of consistency. I feel like Phoenix is definitely one of those where we get the same people constantly challenging. Ryan Blaney's currently on a 5-race streak of top 5 finishes here, 3 straight second-place finishes here at Phoenix. Joey Logano struggled the 2 races here last year. He was not good, but obviously won this race here in November 2022. Has 3 wins here when it comes to Phoenix. And we know Penske's going to be. I mean, that's how they won the championship last year. They focused on the short flat tracks. That's their bread and butter, these short flat tracks.
Yep.
Byron and Larson, once again, going to be strong. Byron, 3 straight top 6 finishes, including a win in this race last year. Larson, 2 straight top 5s last year, 9th place the race before that. Denny Hamlin, and then you got the Toyotas. Denny Hamlin, always strong here. Truex, strong here. Kyle Busch, when he was in a Toyota, was always super strong here.
Yeah.
Kind of fell off the last few years, but still, over the last 17 races, Kyle Busch has top 10s in 14 of them. So very good racetrack for Kyle Busch. Obviously, that he had a very good car at Las Vegas as well. But I want to focus on Toyota. I can't even forget Christopher Bell.
Can't forget Ross Chastain.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to talk about it because I bet him already. I don't want to talk about it. I jinxed him, but yeah, Ross Chastain, very solid here. 3 top 3 finishes, including that win last fall. But Christopher Bell, obviously known for his flat track prowess. Does it surprise you he has 0 top 5 finishes here?
It does surprise me, but it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that and I think Stevie mentioned this on the Running Hot podcast. He's a guy that just seems to either have a dominant car or is like a back half of the top 10 car. He runs in the top 2 or 3 or 4, or he's like 7th to 10th, or sometimes worse. And last year obviously he had the championship 4, and he had the brake rotor failure or whatever, right? So his nothing he could do about that. His day was done just from overheating the brake rotors, I think it was, in the championship race. But so it's tough to say if he would have been a top 5 or a championship contender, because we didn't even really get to see that from him in that race last year to close out the season. So it doesn't surprise me. If we look at Christopher Bell and look at his equipment adjusted performance at Phoenix, this is a neutral track for him. It's almost exactly neutral. So does and doesn't surprise me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Staying in the Toyota camp, I have made one bet this week in regards to Toyota. I bet Tyler Reddick plus 650 as top Toyota. And I'm happy with that bet. He finished third. He's finished third here in the last 2 spring races. That 45 car has been the top Toyota in the last 2 spring races. Kurt Busch did it in 2022. Reddick did it last year. Reddick's another one of those guys, though, that I feel like, he's so hit or miss. He's either up there challenging for the win, or he's running 8th to 15th, similar to Christopher Bell. I'm right there with you. And those two are so there's a reason why I'm rarely on those two, and it's because of that. It's because they are so. When I like them, they suck. When I don't like them, they're amazing.
Exactly.
It's frustrating as all hell.
Yeah. Well, except last year at Las Vegas playoff race, I was all over Christopher Bell, and of course he finished second, barely not beating Larson, and probably could have beat Larson if he turned it left off turn 4, and I don't know why he didn't, but I'm totally not still bitter about that one at all. But there's a lot of guys that are super good here. And I mentioned that quality rating there for I guess whatever you call it for Christopher Bell, where it's like almost a neutral track for him. You mentioned Joey Logano, great track for him. Obviously last year wasn't as good, and so if you look at the last 4, kind of the next gen era, it's only around a 12% better track for him. But over the last 8, it's been around a 17% better track for Joey Logano than the average track for him on a year-by-year basis, right? So adjusting each year how that team has performed. It's an interesting one. This used to be a pretty good track for Brad Keselowski. Had some speed last year, I think, in the second race, but overall in the next gen car, it's been slightly negative for him. So he's another one I'm, like, what do we do with him? But we got a lot to talk about because you mentioned Toyota, really interested in these Toyotas. The Phoenix test is something I cannot get out of my mind for this weekend because I watched all 3 races that RFK posted to their YouTube. It was 6-car races, and because there was only 6 cars doing the test, but they did some mock 50 lap like races. And Chris Buescher looked like just pure ass. So that concerned me a little bit for Keselowski.
He was second in green flag speed in the championship race.
Mm-hmm. And that's with the new body. That the whole point is, I know he was good in the championship race, but that was with the old body. Now with the new body, he didn't look good in those test races. And you know who looked great? Christopher Bell. Literally was half a track ahead of Buescher. You couldn't even see Bell by the end of a couple of those races. So just thought that was very interesting. And Toyota, one of their spokesmen, one of their people commented about how they were fastest every session. And Bell drove from the back to the front. And then when he's in the front, he pulled away, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can see it all on video. Christopher Bell was just awesome in the test. And that was, again, with the new Toyota body. So now, that said, it used that old aero package because we do have a new aero package for Phoenix. And I don't know exactly what tires they were using. They tested a bunch of different tires as well. So there's those elements that could throw a little wrench in it. Plus, it's a test. How hard is everybody really trying? So I don't want to overweigh the test. But consistently, it seemed like Buescher was the slowest. Not the slowest, like near the slowest. Him or Larson. Honestly, Larson didn't look that great, or LaJoie. And then Bell was clearly the fastest. Blaney was clearly the second fastest. And Jones sometimes was fast, sometimes was slow. So tough to get a read on him there. But those are the 6 that did the test. Was the Toyotas were Bell and Jones. The Fords were Blaney and Buescher, and the Chevys were Larson and LaJoie. And to me, it was very clear that Bell was better than Blaney, and we know how good Blaney is here. And then Blaney was the second best in that test.
You mentioned the tires. So Goodyear is bringing a new tire for short track packages this year. It's going into effect here at Phoenix to start out. Comes with a thicker gauge, and it's designed to keep more heat in the tires on short tracks, which is designed to increase lap time fall off. If they use this at Richmond, that's going to be very interesting because there's already a ton of fall off at Richmond. But will this? Obviously, we don't know, and a lot of times when Goodyear makes these changes, we don't see the intended effect really come to fruition. But hopefully it does, because Phoenix here tends to not have much fall off at all. And that's going to obviously affect the race if there is fall off, because tire conservation is going to come into play with these drivers and being able to hold their tires and keep grip in these cars. That honestly, that kind of goes against Ross Chastain, in my opinion, because he is so aggressive of a driver that I feel like he's not the greatest at high tire wear. But then again, he has almost won Darlington. So we talked about the test races there. So do you think, sticking with Toyota, who's your favorite Toyota this week?
Yeah, and real quick, I misspoke. I said the old, that test was with the old aero package. It wasn't there. The whole point was they were testing different aero packages. So each of those 3 races that I saw on YouTube may have had slightly different aero things, but the theme didn't matter which one it was. Bell was best. So that's points to the body of the Toyota, right? How good that was for him. So who's the best Toyota? Honestly, I don't know. I like your Tyler Reddick bet plus 650. I may have to bet it myself. I haven't really given much thought to it. Ty Gibbs was great at Phoenix in the Xfinity Series. He's been absolutely shit in the Cup Series, but it's one of those, A, small sample size, and B, he's figuring it out. We saw how good he was this past weekend. We saw at the Clash, he was the class of the field at the Clash. Obviously didn't get it done on the late restart, but he was the class of the field in the Clash, and that's a short flat track. Now, it isn't using this aero package for this weekend, isn't using the tire for this weekend, but at least with the Toyota body, that same consistent thing there, he was pretty darn good. And Hamlin was really good at the Clash. So I think this is a Toyota race. I know I am all over Toyota this week. I can't get off of them this week. I'm all like Toyota train right now. But I do like your Tyler Reddick plus 650 bet. I know Bubba was 14-1 for top Toyota. He's down to 12-1 at Caesars. Eric Jones is 40-1. He took part in that test. If Legacy keeps making those improvements like they did, and the fact that there's only 7 other Toyotas, not thinking back to last year, there's only 5 other Toyotas. Now there's 7 other Toyotas. 40-1 doesn't seem like the worst, but I don't think I'm jumping out to bet it because, as we talked about, Phoenix is a very predictable track. We don't tend to get a ton of incidents here unless we're having a year where there's like a lot of brake failures. That has happened a couple times at Phoenix, or tire failures that has happened a couple times. But barring things like that, it's a really predictable track. So the cream rises to the top at Phoenix. And so I don't think I'm going to bet Eric Jones 40-1 for top Toyota or John Hunter 100-1, but it's hard to get away from a 100-1 bet on a 8-car group. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It is. And, we've seen it hit, but that was a road course. Bubba Wallace at Indy Road Course. We've seen it hit before.
Where there was more chaos.
Yeah. Yep. And not like we haven't seen a little bit of chaos at Phoenix in the past, but not exactly likely would probably be the
Phoenix
best way to put that.
Used to be until Richmond kind of took over with the really high tire wear. When Richmond was more like medium tire wear, Phoenix used to be the most predictable track on the circuit. From a modeling standpoint, I could get an R-square on my actual versus predicted pretty frequently around like 0.7 to 0.75. And so it's changed a little bit. Richmond is now, I think, the most predictable track. Although, it has, as it's gotten really, really worn, does rear its head with a little bit of strategy that'll throw it off now. But there was a period of time where Richmond became the most predictable track in all of NASCAR. I don't know what it is right now. I haven't run that analysis in a while, but still, it goes to show this is a very predictable track. So making those 40-1, those 100-1 type bets is really hard. But I'm just hoping Ty Gibbs is fast. I bet him 40-1 when he opened at Caesars. So that's what I'm hoping. I think that's the only bet I've really made so far, other than a couple of finishing position bets.
That's what I was just going to bring up. I think we're both on one of those, so I'll let you take the honor of saying that one.
Well, this all came about because you messaged me, asking me to talk you down from the ledge on nuking, I think was the quoted term, Michael McDowell under 20.5 finishing position. I do think I talked you down from nuking it. I don't know if I talked you down from betting it, but
I didn't bet it.
Didn't bet it. So Caesars does have finishing position bets, and
you know how hard they are to find, by the way, not to cut you off, but I texted a couple of my friends. I'm like, hey, bet this one that you're about to bet. And they're like, we don't have those props. And I'm like, yeah, you do. It's just a maze to find it. And then I went to try to find it. I can't get there. I still can't get there. I don't know how the hell I got there.
It's the same process we had to use to find the stage bets at Caesars, that one, for the Daytona 500 with Truex, because I know you took it at a different book, but it's a convoluted process. But you can find it. So it is there at Caesars. And I'm hoping to wait till this podcast drops before I track them. And I'll have to track them at slightly worse lines because I moved the line on them. But the first one is Kyle Larson over 4.5 at minus 160. It's now minus 170. I moved it from minus 160 to minus 170. Still like it. I don't care about those 10 cents. 4.5, like, that's ridiculous. First of all, Kyle Larson didn't look that great in the test, as I mentioned. Second, and this is a Jim Sonis quote, and I knew about this as well, but I have to say what Jim Sonis said because it's fucking hilarious. He goes, Hendrick was booty on short flats the second half of last year. And I knew about that too. Like my model takes into account those kinds of trend lines. Hendrick has not been good since like New Hampshire at the short flats. That includes New Hampshire, Richmond 2, Martinsville 2, and Phoenix 2, right? Like they just weren't as good in the second half of the year at the short flats. You can look at it in speed. You can look at it in stage finishes. You can look at it in raw finishes. Hendrick took a decline at the short flats last year from the first half of the year to the second half of the year. And yeah, Larson finished, I think it was third or something in the championship race, but he also had the championship equipment, right? Like the championship attention, that kind of stuff. And now if Toyota's much improved with their body, if Ford's improved with their body, and you still have guys like Blaney, Ross, I'm ready to bet Kyle Larson no. I was ready, I should say, to bet Kyle Larson no on his win at minus 857 until you brought up the McDowell thing, and I was like, oh shit, Kyle Larson has an over under 4.5, easily over. So I bet Kyle Larson over 4.5 finishing position. One of the easiest bets of the year I've made. And I'll track that when this episode drops. I'll track it at the current line instead of the line I bet it at. And then the other one I bet, this guy we mentioned when you're talking about, Kevin Harvick always finished top 10 here. Kyle Busch always finished top 10 here. Ryan Blaney's been on a streak of whatever. Martin Truex Jr. He's a guy that just always gets it done here. So Martin Truex Jr. under 11.5. Now, I know last year Martin Truex Jr. Had a finish over 11.5 at one of the Phoenix races, this Phoenix race. And 2 years ago, he had an over 11.5 at both Phoenix races. But by and large, he gets it done here. It doesn't really look like it in his record because he's had some like really screwed up shit happen to him, I guess. But Martin Truex Jr. under 11.5, minus 130. I moved it to minus 145. I'd still bet it at minus 145. Is a bet I'd love to make, especially with Toyota being apparently as good as they were in the test, especially the Gibbs Toyota. I think that's just a huge, huge thing there. And, if we remove Martin Truex Jr.'s DNFs, his finishes at Phoenix are 17 and 15, which aren't great, but then 2, 1, 10, 6, 2, 14, 5, 3, 11, right? Like it's ever since he's been a championship contender, he's been really good at Phoenix, other than a couple DNFs and then a couple finishes in the teens. So more often than not, he's finishing inside the top 11.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Once you mentioned that, I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even see it. I must have overlooked it. But as soon as you mentioned it, I was like, yep, betting under 11.5 on Truex finishing position. I'm putting that McDowell bet. I'm classifying it this week as my favorite bet of the week that I didn't make, but I still like it. And I wouldn't recommend that you make it, but I still like it a lot, just in case it hits. Yeah. Michael McDowell under 20.5 finishing position. Because
it makes sense.
Those front row cars figured something out last year on the short flats. They have additional speed this year to start out the year. This is my thinking on it. I really like I was expecting that line to be at like 15.5. That's why when it was 20.5, I was like, holy shit. But I ran my pre-practice, pre-qualifying stuff, and I have McDowell projected 21st. So his line's at 20.5. I haven't projected 21st. Obviously, I'm not going to nuke that, but I do like it. I like just as a gut feeling bet. I like that bet, but I have not, and I don't plan to hit that unless maybe he looks really good in practice and it stays there afterwards. But
right.
But yeah, Truex 11.5. If you can still get that, hell, what would you even bet that to position wise? Like if they moved it to 10.5, obviously I think you'd still bet it. What would you go up to or down?
Yeah, I think 10.5 at minus 110 is totally fine. I think 9.5 at minus 110, probably fine. But I think that's probably where I would stop. I think I'm showing enough value at under 11.5 that a movement from 11.5 to 10.5 at the standard -110, -115, totally fine. I don't think it's going to get to 9.5, so I don't think that even matters. But if you got plus money on it at 9.5, I'd take that as well.
That'd be awesome if it'd be one of those bets where you could like adjust to where you wanted it. Another bet that I have made, in my group chat earlier this week, I said if Ross Chastain opens above longer than 10, I'm betting it, and I'm not thinking twice. He opened at 12 on Caesars, and I immediately hit it as soon as I saw it. I think I might have been one of the first people to notice that Caesars dropped lines because they put it in there wherever the fuck. Nobody could find it. Like, I tweeted it out, and they're all like, is this for the championship?
They always do it in the other when they drop.
Yeah.
But that's
like, is this for the championship?
Caesars has done that for 2 years now. They put when the lines post, they just initially drop it under auto other.
Yeah.
Until it gets bet into or something, and then they post it to the main thing.
Yeah. So I did hit Chastain 12-1. There's a little bit of regret here. I don't mind the line. I like the line, obviously. I said if it's 10 or longer, I'm betting it. But I also am cognizant that Ross Chastain is not good at qualifying. And if he qualifies mid-pack, even if he has a very good car in practice, his line's not going to get shorter by any means. If anything, it's going to get longer if he doesn't qualify well. So a little bit of regret there, but I don't mind that 12-1. I think Ross Chastain can win this race.
It's still the best line. There are no 12s available now. So the whole point is you got great value, and at worst, it's probably going to move back to 12, right? So I like it. I'm pretty close to right there with you on value on that. It's like pretty thin value at 12-1 for me. 11-1 is right around where I have fair. So I didn't. I saw it when you tweeted it. I was able to get it if I wanted to, but I kind of hemmed and hawed because I want to look at the odds board. Decided on betting Gibbs, and I loved the Gibbs bet, and that was the main thing. I wanted to get Gibbs. I wanted to get Briscoe, but I was like, maybe he'll open 60 somewhere, and then by the time other books opened, he'd already got bet down to 30, and then everybody else opened him at 20. So I was like, well, that's fine. I'm okay with missing out on Briscoe at 50, even though I wanted it. And then I took Noah Gragson. I took a little sprinkle at 150-1. Unfortunately, my sprinkle moved the line, so I couldn't track it. And then Bet Rivers opened 200-1, but I'm not going to track a Bet Rivers line where A, I can't bet it myself, and then B, most people can get like 60 cents on it because Bet Rivers is like the fastest to limit anywhere that I've ever seen. So just an untracked Noah Gragson 150-1. I wouldn't bet it at 100-1. It was more of a 150-1 play. I was showing some value on it at 150, but not really at 100.
Comparing from last week to this week, obviously Larson was the heavy favorite going into the race weekend after practice and qualifying, still the heavy favorite. Larson is the favorite this weekend to win at Phoenix, plus 650, best odds you can get him at. Anyone sticking out to you on this outright winner board as surprised they're that long or that short? Either way.
No, it's about where I expected.
Yeah.
I guess if you like Tyler Reddick top Toyota plus 650, you should bet his 18-1 because if he's top Toyota and with how Toyota looked in the test, he's probably going to win the race then. So, he may have to compete with Blaney, Ross, and Larson and Byron, maybe a Logano, but if you're top Toyota at that point, you should be betting 18-1. So I think I could get behind Tyler Reddick 18-1. My model isn't as high on that, but it makes a lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? So I may override my model and bet Tyler Reddick 18-1 at BetMGM.
Our boy Daniel Hemrick, speaking of BetMGM, our boy Daniel Hemrick 1,000-1 at BetMGM, same odds as Justin Haley. I just had to throw that out there because it's funny to me.
It is funny. Daniel Hemrick last week, 24th in green flag speed, a little more impressive than I thought he would be. So shout outs to him for, being 24th. But I'm glad I took him as my 36 for 36 at Daytona, because 24th still is worse than he did at Daytona.
I saw Colleague Racing tweeting out about Hemrick first 3 races, top 20s in every single race. I'm like, tell me you've fallen off without telling me you've fallen off. Celebrating top 20s now. # trophy hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Colleague at this point is only going to be relevant if it's Allmendinger or SVG at a road course.
Yep. No top 10 line. Like, I love top 10s at Phoenix. Actually, there are top 10 lines now. Bet Rivers has them. Let's see if there's anything that sticks out here.
Interesting. Nothing's really sticking out.
No. I was hoping something like on a Briscoe, maybe getting some plus money on Briscoe, but he's at minus 104. Where are the Stuart Haas guys at?
Barry is plus 240. Gregson's plus 265.
No.
Priest is plus 265.
There is not a single thing I like on here.
No, I agree. I don't see anything here. I'm dying to bet, except maybe Zane Smith. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We're back on the Zane Smith train this week now.
I honestly have a feeling I'm going to be on Zane Smith a lot early in the season because, like we said, lap 4, like just like you mentioned, people are going to be off of him on DFS because of that. The books are off of him. Look at him compared to Hocevar and LaJoie, right? But Is he actually worse than them? I don't think so. Like, he's probably around them.
Yeah, you look at outright winner, Zane Smith 500 to 1, LaJoie 250, Hocevar 300.
Yeah, and like Zane won the truck title over Hocevar twice. Or I think just once. Last year he didn't win it, but you get my point.
And they're in the same equipment. Like, he's in a Spire
now they're in
car
the same
too.
equipment, yeah. Like in the trucks they weren't, but Hocevar certainly was in lesser equipment in trucks. But Zane wasn't exactly in like Insano equipment either. So yeah, he should be a lot closer to Hocevar and LaJoie, but for some reason isn't.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is. It's just not having much data, and then the recency bias of how Spire looked last week. So yeah, not a lot of value out there on the betting board. Like I said, I got Chastain outright, and we're both on that Truex. Really like that Truex under 11.5 finishing position. But other than that, there's a lot of questions once again this weekend heading into Phoenix. But there's also just not a lot of value right now and out there on the betting boards. So we'll have to wait and see how things go when it comes to practice and qualifying. Practice is on Friday. Qualifying is on Saturday. Like I said, there's an extended practice for this weekend at Phoenix. That's all I have for Phoenix. Do you have anything else?
I finished it.
Yes.
So we finished that. If you're on audio, I finished the chocolate peanut butter stout. So it was good. It's good.
Yeah. Anything else for Phoenix?
No, we got to do our picks and our picks.
Picks to win. Yep. So
and our 36 for 36.
Picks to win or 36 for 36? Which one?
I have 36 for 36 up in front of me. If you want to do that,
let's do that.
I don't know if you saw in the document, but I made it look all pretty and
you did. It looks nice.
Put a pylon of all the car numbers so that we can keep track of those and color coded the track types. I did road course, intermediate package, short track package, and drafting as the 4 colors. So like, I know it doesn't really make sense to have Bristol color coded the same as like Michigan, but both of those use the intermediate package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time this afternoon thinking about what my pick's going to be, and I came up with one. I'm going to come out of the gates hot here. I might regret
have
it.
2, and I'm very curious if yours is one of my 2.
Okay.
And Jim Sonis already knows the 2 that I'm thinking of.
So my pick is based on this. I want someone that's reliable. I want someone with high upside here early. And this guy really, at most other tracks, especially going into a race weekend, it's very few times that I'm like, there's a good shot he's going to win. There's a good shot he's going to dominate. I'm going to go with the guy that over the last 5 races at Phoenix has not finished worse than 4th. I'm going Ryan Blaney. I'm using last year's champion, race number 4.
That was one of my
36
2.
for
That
36.
was one of my 2. That was one of my 2.
Yep.
And I've hemmed and hawed about, do I go Blaney or do I go Briscoe?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only 2 I considered.
I like that one as well. Yep.
Only 2 I considered. And to me, it comes down to, what about Phoenix 2?
Yep.
If Blaney is in the championship 4 at Phoenix 2, that's where I want to use him, because then he gets the good shit. He gets the attention, whatever. But then again, he could still do it at Phoenix 1. Briscoe doesn't really have a shot of being in the championship 4. So if I'm going to use him, I should use him here. But if I use Blaney here and then Blaney doesn't make the championship 4, then I want to use one of the championship 4 drivers at Phoenix 2 because they get the good shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's there. I can go either way with Blaney or Briscoe. And the thing about Briscoe, the thing about Briscoe though, is he's good at some road courses. We know that. But I also think there's enough drivers I could use at road courses that I wouldn't feel guilty about using Briscoe here, right? Like, we're going to use Allmendinger at some point in a road course. Both of us will, guaranteed.
Yep.
Reddick and or Elliott, both on the cards. Truex on the cards for a road course.
McDowell,
Austin Cindric. You know, just like, where else are you going to use Cindric? Daniel Suarez, right? Like, where else are you going to use Daniel Suarez if it's not Atlanta? And you know, to be fair, at Atlanta, we're using guys like Todd Gilliland or something, you know? So I think I don't need to use Chase Briscoe at a road course. So for me, Briscoe becomes, okay, well, you either use him here at Phoenix or you use him at something like a Bristol or a Darlington, but there's other guys you can use at those. So to me, it's Blaney or Briscoe, and I'm still undecided. That's why I'm talking through it. Like, I'm still undecided.
I can tell. And we also have the aspect of Iowa. I forgot about that. You know, that's another short flat track that's getting added to the schedule that we're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, that's a wild card.
And I will say, like, this is one of Blaney's best tracks. A track that he's better at than Phoenix is Martinsville. But if you think I will ever pick Ryan Blaney at Martinsville in a game like this after what he did to me however many years ago with my top 10 bet, no, absolutely not. So
plus,
that was
there's other guys you can use at Martinsville, right? And to be fair, Briscoe is one of those you can use at Martinsville. So that throws another wrench in things. But I think we're both probably locking in Priest to one of the Martinsvilles because that's the only place Priest is good. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do here? And because Blaney is not favored to make Phoenix, right? If I look at the odds to make the championship 4, he's plus 190 at Caesars. I think I'm going to roll the dice and take Ryan Blaney here. So we're both on Blaney. So second week in a row, we're picking the same driver. I'm going to take Ryan Blaney as my whatever it is, 36 for 36 for Phoenix. Yep. So I will turn these red and strike them off the board.
It's going to be fun to see if we flash back at the second or whenever we use Briscoe and say we should have used Briscoe at the first Phoenix race. Or, Blaney could come out and just do his thing here, and I'll be perfectly happy if he gets a top 5 finish at Phoenix. Perfectly happy with that.
And here's the other thing, and I did talk about this when I was talking with Jim. What if I save the final 4 for Phoenix? You pick one of those, but then it turns out I've just used them all, and then I'm fucked on that regard. So, that's a reason to lean Briscoe here. I almost should pick Briscoe just because I also met him this past weekend. So, fuck it. I'm taking Chase Briscoe.
You're going Briscoe?
Official Chase Briscoe is my pick only because I met him at Phoenix or at Vegas this past weekend. So he's my pick for Phoenix.
There we go. I got Blaney. You got Briscoe this week for Phoenix. You currently have a 15-point advantage, so we'll see if I can close that gap this week. But I'm also using one of the top drivers in the series. So, and
that's the thing. Like Blaney could just, even if he doesn't make the top 4 at Phoenix too, could still just win like Chastain did last year. So it's tough. But I think the edge for me is I met Briscoe. That's the edge.
All right. Who's your pick to win? Mr. Top 10 streak has not picked anyone lower than 8th this year. I know it's going to be a Toyota.
It's going to be that. Yeah, that's all it is. It's going to be a Toyota.
By the way, do you like betting Toyota 2-1 as manufacturer?
I love that. I was saving that, but yes, I'm definitely betting that.
My bad.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I'm just trying to make sure I can get as much as I can on that. Let's just put it that way.
Gotcha.
But yes, I am
going up till tomorrow anyway. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. So, I love that. Plus 190 if that's available to you. Plus 180 if that's available to you. I'm betting those. Doesn't matter. Toyota. I'm ride or die Toyota this week. So, Denny Hamlin is not the guy I'm picking because I don't feel like he's the best here. He's good, but he's not the best. Similarly with Truex, he's good here, but he's not the best. So to me, that's like, okay, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, wild card of Ty Gibbs. Not taking Bubba. No offense, Bubba. Also not the best here. Still good. Just, like all these guys are good here. So it's one of the 3 of Bell, Gibbs, or Reddick. I think you've talked me into Reddick. I think you've talked me into Reddick. I'm taking Tyler.
I like
Reddick.
it.
I'm taking Tyler.
Right. Runner-up finisher last week. You're going pick to win this week at Phoenix. I like it. Like I said, 3rd place in the last 2 Phoenix spring races.
Yeah.
I hope you're right because then I'll hit my top Toyota bet. And I think you talked me into betting him 18-1. That's too. I think that's a little too long.
I agree. I think we have to bet him 18-1. And then Toyota to win.
I might go against you and not pick a Toyota this week.
You can go either 36 or 36. Were you going to go Bell? Oh, wait. No, he's a Toyota. God, Bell looks so good in those test races.
I am between 2 drivers that I'm going to pick to win. I'll let you decide who. Or guess who.
Ross and Blaney.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 obvious ones, right? Like the guys who've been, both Ross and Blaney were the best at each of the 2 championship Phoenix races we've had in the next gen car. I know Joey Logano won the championship, but like we talked about, Blaney played wingman for him as Ross was catching them. But Blaney and Ross were the 2 best in both of those. And then you have Blaney, Phoenix 1 of 2022. He and Elliott arguably were the best. And then last year, Phoenix 1, it was like Larson and Byron and Harvick, I think, were the best or something.
Yeah. I think you're right.
But Blaney was still really good, obviously. So to me, it if you're not picking a Toyota, it has to be Ross or Blaney.
It is, and I could go Truex. I like Truex this week, but I'm going Ross. I think Ross gets it done. Like I said, I jumped at him as soon as
I
odds dropped,
like Ross this week. I really do. I really do.
I can't get over. I mean, that car was so good here last fall.
Yeah,
it was so good, and I would be hypocritical of myself not to continuously preach not much changes between these next gen races and not go Ross here. So
yeah, I agree with you.
Blaney's good too. I'm going Ross. You're going Reddick.
The big question is, how is the new aero package and how is the tires going to change things?
Yep, it is.
It's the big question.
And that's honestly
and the
why
one consistent thing between all those tire and aero changes that I saw from the tests was Christopher Bell smashing ass. So, and if there's extra fall off, that makes me like Reddick even more. Reddick's so good at fall off tracks.
That's why I didn't go Blaney, by the way, because I'm not convinced that this new Ford body races very well.
He looked really good in the tests, like I said. He looked really good in the test. He was second to Bell for sure in the 6 cars that I saw. But yeah, and I agree with you. Well, and the funny thing is Ford was terrible last year at the start of the season on the short flats.
Yep.
Because of the nose, the super speedway nose. Now they've gone away from the super speedway nose to gain some back at the intermediates and at the short flats. So that, if anything, that should help Blaney. But the Toyotas did the same thing, right? Like, I'm curious if Chevy's going to be behind here. Larson did not look as good as Blaney and Bell in the test, and even Jones and LaJoy and were around him, if not ahead of him in a lot of that in the tests. So
that reminds me, there's one bet that I wanted to ask your opinion on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I marked it down earlier, but then I forgot. These are becoming like we've hit them, I think, every week. But let me find it on Caesars. Number of Chevys in the top 10, 3.5 over plus 110.
Yeah, I know Greg hit the Toyota over 2.5, and I would have monster mashed that if he hadn't gotten to it first. So fuck you, Greg. But that
one is now minus 250.
Yeah, exactly. So he got to it first, but that's the whole thing. Like, that's why, like, if you're listening and you follow me in the Action app or you're in the Discord or anything like that, sometimes that's why I just can't wait to post it in the app or post it on Discord and let everybody try to tail it and whatever. I need to look out for myself first. And you know how that is. So, because if not, Greg's going to bet it and move it so I can't get it. And that's good. Like, that's what we want. I mean, that's why he's as good as he is, Greg. But at the same time, that's also, it makes it harder for me to get the line that I want or any of the people that follow us. So that's totally fine. That's all part of a NASCAR betting community. And as this community gets bigger and the market becomes a little bit more bet into, a little less niche, those lines don't move as quickly, but we're still in the stages where these things are going to move, and we probably will be for years and years and decades. But maybe someday before I die, a bet by Greg or me won't instantly move the line.
Right. All right, that's all I got for Phoenix. You got anything else?
No, I'm honest. I'm excited for Phoenix. Bet Kyle Kirkwood to win St. Pete if he's anything longer than like 7.5. Okay. If you see an 8 out there, take it instantly. I don't expect double-digit odds on Kirkwood, but if you see a double-digit odds on him, holy shit, you bet that. Yeah. Like, I'm so excited for IndyCar. IndyCar is my favorite. Like, even more than NASCAR. As much as I love NASCAR, IndyCar is my jam. It's my favorite sport. Has been forever. I love up there with soccer and NASCAR. I'm so excited. I'm glad there's no trucks this weekend. I need a break from all 3 series in one weekend, especially with IndyCar running this weekend. So I'm glad there's no trucks. But yeah, exciting. It's NASCAR. We're still early. Like, we've only had 3 races out of 36. Multiply what we just did by 12, and that's what we still have to come.
Hell yeah. It's going to be a hell of a year. It's already a hell of a year.
Actually, one more thing. We haven't talked about this. What the hell? Let me try that again because the book just kicked me fuck out. Yeah, it's not working. Okay, let me go to a different book. One last thing. Ross is 20 to win the championship still.
I saw him at 16 at one book, and I thought about it.
FanDuel's
Where's
20.
he at 20 at?
FanDuel's 20.
Damn it. You
If
know
you
what
like
I
him to
think
win
about?
Phoenix, if you like him to win Phoenix, wouldn't now be the time to bet him?
Fuck. Yes.
And you know I hate championship bets, but I bet Ross 22 before the season started. But looking how he looked at Vegas, he was really good. And then right before Phoenix, this seems like and before Coda, which of course he won, seems like a hop-on point.
I'm going to have to think about that. I'm not going to make a rash decision right now.
Yeah,
but
no, definitely something to consider. Because I don't have anything to consider because I've already bet him 22, so I'm set. But
right.
now that we have seen a real race, not a drafting race, it gives me more confidence in, Ross is still definitely championship material.
I'm going to end up betting it. I am. I like that 20. Haven't bet it yet, but I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week on Stacking Dennys. Thank you for listening. Good luck this weekend at Phoenix. We'll be back next weekend when we talk about, what'd you say is next weekend? Coda? Got Coda then
know.
Bristol, right?
I think that might be right. It is Bristol then Coda.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. Bristol then Coda. Oh yeah. We got Bristol coming. Fuck yeah. This
And
is
it's
such a
not
good
dirt.
start to
And
the
it's
year.
not dirt. It's not dirt.
Such a good start
Thank
to
God.
the year.
Dude, we're going back
And
to
then
the good
Richmond.
shit. We're going back to real Bristol and real Indy. I love it. Let's go.
And yeah, so Bristol, Coda, and then Richmond. This is such a good start to the season.
And then Martinsville with the new package. And honestly, both spring Martinsville races sucked, but both fall Martinsville races I thought were awesome in the next gen era. And now if we have this better package, better tire fall off with this tire, Martinsville could be amazing. And honestly, I think Texas produced really good racing. Then we get Talladega, then we get Dover, then we get Kansas, which was the best race last year. Then we get Darlington, and then we get the 600. Like, the whole fucking first third of the season is a smash. And then it's Gateway. Well, Gateway's good. It's fine. And repaved Sonoma is going to be terrible. So, we hit the lull after the 600. But I think the whole first half of the season, first third of the season, I should say, is just absolute smash.
Yep. 100% agree. Damn. Yeah, this weekend's going to be fun. Exciting to see what Ford and Toyota answer some more questions there. We have another different track type, a different package this week. So once again, a lot of questions, but we'll see how it goes. So good luck to everybody this week with your bets, fantasy. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.